Now, a lot of people thought this was fake, but then they actually caught him on this one.
Well, Cuba's doing very badly. They're failing. Cuba right now is, to put it mildly, a failing nation. And
Cuba, failing nation. He's right, by the way, because Cuba's communist, and communism inherently can never work unless it's funded by an outside source, like China.
I've been hearing about Cuba. I said before, since I'm a little boy, I've been hearing about Cuba, and everybody wanted to change it. I can see that happening. Marco Rubio is dealing on it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what that means. We about to get another El Presidente. That's great. Yo, Trump is really collecting Presidentes a month, bro. Every fucking month.
Rubio, Marcus Rubio is first of his name. He's
This
more
crazy.
than
It's
half
like
the top of the
Pokemon
Cuba
out here,
regime.
nigga.
And at a very high
You gotta
level.
get them all.
And
We gotta
they
catch them
have
all.
no money, they have no oil, they have no food.
They're a useless bitch nation that is slowly dying. Now, one of the reasons why a lot of people don't know this, but Venezuela, actually gives Cuba oil and shit, right? Also, Cuba is a military outpost for China. All right, they're an ally of Iran. Iran sends Iranian terrorists to train in Cuba, but also, and this is also important, Cuba is inherently a dead country now. Who's gonna go to fucking Cuba? Run by a communist dictator, Chinese ball gaggler? No one wants to go there. No one wants to give them tourism money even. All right, Cuba's dead. It's a dead country. In fact, there were literally
I
hiring
haven't heard
Cuban
from Cuba in
mercenaries
so long.
as Maduro's security in Venezuela. Well, there's no one there anymore for, Cuba's military to get gigs in anymore.
And it's really right now a nation in deep trouble, and they want our help.
They want our help. They being the people. Trump, the liberator. El Trumpo. He just goes around, liberates nations. Gets some free oil on the side. Hell yeah, dude. That's what I'm talking about. And my guy, the baldest Jew anyone's ever seen, Stephen Miller, went nuclear over Cuba.
We are not going to cede an inch of territory in this hemisphere to our enemies or our adversaries.
That's right. A lot of people are like,
Facts.
hemisphere, what is all this talk of hemisphere? It's ours. It's ours now. Why? Because
It's ours.
You didn't get the memo. It's our hemisphere, so therefore
Exactly.
it's ours. Sorry. If you don't like it, you could lump
Fuck
it,
NATO,
digest it, and dump
nigga.
it. All right?
We
don't
we
care.
got
It's
the
ours.
hemisphere now, bro.
Our national
What you talking
security,
about?
our
That's
homeland
right.
security,
That's right.
the safety
If
and
you
well-being
in
of our
our
people
That's right.
hemisphere,
begins at
you're
home,
under
begins in our
our
neighborhood,
authority.
Absolutely.
begins in our
Facts.
home region.
That's right.
And for too long, we have allowed foreign enemies, foreign adversaries,
That's right.
and
Because some old boomer libtard was like, we can't violate the sovereignty of another nation in our backyard that's raping us. We can't stop their sovereignty. Well, we can actually stop their sovereignty because we could just do things. We could just do
You
things.
just do
But
it.
what about their
Facts.
sovereignty? Aren't borders imaginary? Isn't ever no one's illegal on stolen land or some shit? I don't give a shit, okay? All right? Get out of here, bro. This isn't an illegal invasion. It's an undocumented invasion.
and even terrorist organizations.
That's right. We don't need to deal with that.
We use the same logic against them,
Our
bro.
hemisphere.
Holy shit.
Our hemisphere. It's ours.
Threats.
What are you gonna say?
It's
What are you
our
gonna do?
hemisphere,
I love how I
facts.
see some people pop up occasionally. It's like technically it's not our hemisphere. We're just a country in this. No. Explain to me how this is not ours and our hemisphere. Tell me how it's not. If we decided to occupy Canada tomorrow,
We
what
could
was
do it.
anyone gonna do about it? Yeah, they bitch and cry. I'm sure that Keir Starmer from England would write a strongly worded letter about how Canada was an up-and-coming Islamic community that has been conquered by America or something. But quite literally, what would anyone do about it? I'm just asking the question. So therefore, if we say it's our hemisphere, and therefore we have the right to kill terrorists that are a threat to us, what is anyone going to do about it? And ultimately, this is
Nothing.
where the
They
international
could do
law
absolutely
argument
nothing about it.
completely
What are you
falls
talking about?
apart. That's right. That's where it falls apart. Because international law can only exist if it can be enforced. And no one can enforce shit on us. Because we're the strongest, most powerful nation on the planet. And quite literally, everyone needs us.
And directly threaten the lives of your citizens and our citizens.
Yeah, we don't need to play this
Under
game.
the leadership of President Trump, we are using hard power,
That's right.
military power,
That's right.
lethal force.
Dog, I'm paying enough taxes that my military could kill terrorists, okay? I'm just
Exactly.
saying. my American...
I'd rather my taxes go to shit like this all day long than some trans parade bullshit or I don't know what the fuck our tax dollars was going to a couple years ago, bro. I'd rather this shit go to this all day long, man. The fuck is you talking about? We supposed to be killing terrorists. We supposed to making our hemisphere the safest hemisphere ever. You heard of make America great again, but what about make our hemisphere great again? What is he talking about?
Fucking blood is fucking pumping. There's nothing more
Yeah.
American than killing terrorists, god damn it.
to
Mm-hmm.
protect and defend the American homeland.
Nothing more American than
Not a single
apple
one of your
pie,
nations should
beer,
tolerate the existence
and
of a
killing
single
terrorists.
square mile of
Yeah.
territory
Yeah.
under the control of any
Yeah.
entity other than the sovereign governments of your country.
That's right.
The idea-
If Cuba is being used as an outpost for China or Iran, then Cuba's gonna need to change that shit, or we'll change it for them. Well, we don't need to play this game.
that we would have in this hemisphere,
Our hemisphere,
areas that are under
ours.
the physical control of foreign terrorist organizations,
Yeah, get out of here, bro.
paramilitary organizations,
Get out of
completely
here.
unacceptable.
Yeah, it's
Get out of here.
The
You know why?
cartels that operate
because we said so.
in this hemisphere
Facts.
are the ISIS and the Al Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere.
He's right, by the way. All right. Now, ISIS and Al Qaeda, they go on like this Islamic supremacy mindset where they want to kill people for their religion or whatever. And the cartels, they fight for greed largely, but
money.
they're just as vicious in
The
many
cartels, they
cases,
just
and they're
greed,
going to be
yeah.
destroyed. That's right. And that's why Mexico is going to be falling apart soon. You're going to see.
Mexico already on
we got
fire.
to start things strong. All right. We got to start things strong in the best way. All right. We got to start with Cuba. Then we'll move to Mexico. One El Presidente per day. And this was insane breaking news that a lot of people kind of was ignoring. Breaking: 2/3 of Cuba hit with electricity blackout. Cause not yet known. Cause not yet known.
2/3 got hit with a blackout. Holy shit. I think, the crusade has arrived, me boys. We about to fuck shit up, yo. Holy shit. Yo, I think Nuxanor is actually up to something, bro. Where was this? This was yesterday, though. I think we would have heard something. But what if that was an attack? Holy shit.
Yeah, 2/3 of the country got a blackout. All right? What did communists use before candles? Electricity. There it is, baby. There it is. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. It's communism. Communism.
It's
is the
communism.
greatest good for all the people to come together and get
The
poor and
oligarchies.
corrupt. We
must take out
we
the
have
oligarchies.
dictators to make sure that we're all corrupt and poor. We let Iranians rape us in our land. And then America says, not in my hemisphere. And then they capture the El Presidente. That's just how it works. I'm sorry.
Facts.
Now,
That's just
cause
how it
not yet
works.
known for this blackout. A lot of people are suspecting certain things. A lot of people are suspecting that maybe the cause is somewhat known.
No, that is hilarious. That is fucking hilarious. They got Marcus Rubio with the fucking electric wire. Oh, nah, bro. This is glorious, bro. Holy shit. Yo, I got a feeling we about to get some news in like the next couple of hours or the next day, bro. Cause no lie, this is crazy.
By some people for this blackout. Really? 2/3 of the country? Remember, this is after Cuba killed 4 Americans on a boat.
I gotta take a picture of this shit. So this is glorious. Oh my god, bro. This is glorious, gang. We fucking coming for all presidentes. You heard? We coming for all presidentes, you heard? We like Santa Claus, but the opposite. You better be a good boy or niggas is gonna kill your. Yo, Cuba, Cuba, Cuba. We going, yo. That is crazy.
Off their shores, and
That is
that wasn't
funny.
really ever properly explained. Now, Marcus Rubius has been cooking.
Marcus Rubius, you heard? What's like
The
being
reason
all
why things are
grown
as bad
up
as
now?
they are is because they have an economic model that does not exist, that does not work.
Correct.
It doesn't exist anywhere in the world.
That's right.
It's not functional.
That's true.
And the only way Cuba's going to have a better future is if it has a different economic model.
Well, how is the economic model going to change? I mean, currently they're propped up by China. So how are they going to have a different economic model? Could someone explain to me what would happen in between? Well, I know that Marco Rubio, next week when the U.S. takes Cuba, he is already prepared. He is already prepared to become the next supreme leader of Cuba. I'm telling you, man, it's going to happen. Now, Marcus Rubius has been cooking constantly on Cuba, and this is one of the most telling moments in his career regarding Cuba.
You're just going to move on to a couple of other issues. Your comments that Havana should be concerned about the Maduro operation is fueling speculation that this administration will turn its sights to Cuba next.
Yes, based.
Will you make a public commitment today to rule out U.S. regime change in Cuba?
Every leftist, no, leave the murderous communist dictator controlled by our foreign adversaries alone. No, please make a promise. Commit that you're not going to overthrow a terrorist dictator.
Regime change?
Yes.
Oh, no, I think we would love to see the regime change.
Oh, we would love it. We would love it. Not just want it. We would love it.
But we would love to see it change. There's no doubt about the fact that it would be of great benefit to the United States.
It's gonna happen. Mark my words. The next couple of days, we're gonna hear about this shit.
If Cuba was no longer governed by an autocratic regime.
But you know what we mean by regime change. We don't mean I wish someone else were in charge. When we talk about regime change, we're talking about using the power of the United States, usually kinetic power, but often other kinds of coercion. And I'm not even saying that that's always not in our interest. I'm just saying, I'm not asking you.
It sounds
whether you would
amazing.
prefer
Sounds
a
great.
different kind of
When could we
government.
sign
I'm
up?
asking whether you are trying to precipitate the fall of the current regime.
Yeah, but that's statutory. The Helms-Burton Act, the U.S. embargo on Cuba is codified. It was codified in law, and it requires regime change in order for us to lift the embargo.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Basically, bro says, I would love to see regime change. Now, a lot of people are crying about regime change and shit, specifically in this regard. But people are forgetting that Donald Trump tweeted this today. Delcy Rodriguez, president of Venezuela, doing a great job working with the U.S. representatives very well. The oil is beginning to flow. The professionalism and dedication between the countries is a very nice thing to see. And, of course, Delcy Rodriguez needs to suck it a little bit from the back if possible. I thank President Donald Trump for the kind willingness of his government to work together on an agenda that strengthens binational cooperation. Of course, for the benefit of the people. Yeah, so it seems like we spent 88 minutes of our time. All right, we went in there, we captured Maduro and El Presidente, we threw him in a dungeon. All right, we freed the nation. Venezuela's happy. Venezuela love us. Venezuelans have been celebrating Trump in the streets just like the Iranians are celebrating Trump in the streets. Of course, the leftists said this is going to cause some sort of gigantic meltdown. The replacement's going to be even worse. But it seems like the replacement really doesn't want to get Maduro'd. I am noticing that when at fear as being put at gunpoint, suddenly things are cleaning themselves up.
Power through strength seems to be working.
China.
It
China's
seems
oil
that power through strength was actually what we needed.
More than happy to give us oil, and they're afraid of getting Maduro'd. So that's a just gigantic.
I keep saying power.
So
I mean
Marco
peace.
Rubio says, I would love to see regime
power,
change.
peace, same difference.
We
Who
would
cares?
love to see regime change. This is just Marco Rubio, is the new president of Cuba. This is him getting ready. And prepared to get
Yo,
involved.
Marco Rubio is
Now,
gonna be president thing of like 3 different countries. We're gonna make Marcus Rubius our permanent like vice president or some shit. He just controls those countries we took over. Holy shit, bro. That is crazy.
A lot of people don't know this, but watch the leftoids cry. Do U.S. Americans know that every single year at the General Assembly of the United Nations, the enemy of America, by the way, the United Nations,
Yes.
the entire world votes to condemn our country for the criminal blockade of Cuba. Not just the communists, the global south, the entire world. Actually, that's not true. There is one other country, aside from the United States of America, that also supports the blockade of Cuba. You know, the other country that actually...
Our real fucking allies, the fucking allies who lay down their life for us. Shout out fucking Israel. Facts.
Deals with consistent terrorism from outside of their borders. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird how that keeps happening? Wow, it's just us and our greatest ally working together to kill terrorists and shit. I don't know, bro. It's kind of insane how this keeps happening. So, yes, no, actually, good thing that there's an embargo on Cuba. Because Cuba, for those of you that are unaware, Cuba did mass arbitrary detentions and political prisoners. Hundreds to thousands of people imprisoned for political reasons.
That's crazy. That's fucking... Imagine being arrested for political reasons, bro. And they arrested people by, like... They said over... Yeah, by the... thousands, bro. Imagine. That's so D, gang. I ain't gonna lie. I do not want to live in a country like that. We gonna holler.
Wow, sounds like a dictatorship. But no, we got Americans calling Trump fascist. But not that Cuba is fascist. Right? They're torturing. All right? Ill treatment, deaths in custody, repression, protests, and dissent. Right? If people protest, they go to jail. Restrictions of free expression in media. They target the families and do collective punishment. That's right. One person protests against the government, and guess what? Guess what? They put the whole family in prison, in a torture dungeon. Forced labor, other exploitative practices, denial of basic rights. Okay, that's cool. Government restricts access to healthcare, food, and other essentials while denying independent monitoring in prisons and conditions. Wow, that's nice. So, essentially, Cuba is a communist shithole, all right? And we have...
Literally sounds horrible, bro. Literally sounds horrible. Oh. This almost sounds like Hamas land, wherever the fuck they call that, because Palestine don't exist. I'm gonna call it Hamas land. This was literally like Hamas land. Holy shit, we need to go over there and clean this shit up.
Like, no, leave Cuba alone, no. This is Marco Rubio departing to Florida coast soon to liberate Cuba. It's happening. A lot of you might not know what's happening, but it is happening very soon. Now, China gets a large portion of their oil from two places, Venezuela and Iran. Do you understand now? Now, Trump has been playing five-dimensional geopolitical chess, and I'm seeing a lot of retards completely not understanding what's going on, and then a lot more retards kind of understand, but they lie anyway, right? Like all these Democratic senators or whatever that are in these like briefings and shit, these classified briefings, and they're like, Trump has no idea what he's doing. Every single one of those retards knows what Trump is doing. This is crippling China and Russia. China can't invade Taiwan if they have no oil. Russia is going to eventually want to stop this war because they can't get oil and drones and cheap weaponry from Iran. Right? So a lot of people don't know this. In fact, it's working. Oil in China just hit $100 a barrel. 60 days ago, it was $60 a barrel.
That shit just
happened
doubled.
60 days ago.
Holy shit.
Yes,
that shit
that
just
was about
doubled.
a week after we captured Maduro. Wow, probably a coincidence. Wow. So all of a sudden, oil is super expensive
And that
in
shit's
China.
about to double again because we hit Iran
notice
now.
what's going on here.
Holy
this
shit.
is this capturing Maduro. This is this war with Iran. It's almost like these retards are reliant on our adversaries, and we are crippling our major adversary. Where's the Chinese century, bro? The Trump doctrine is working. Of course it's working.
Of course it is.
It's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's wild. I know what it means for Taiwan. I do too. It means that Russia. It means that China quite literally cannot invade Taiwan.
They
can't invade Taiwan if they have no oil. If they have no gas for their planes are not going to be doing any invasioning soon. And we like Taiwan.
Them planes ain't going nowhere,
and therefore
everybody.
we like them. I love how some people are like, we're America first. I don't care if you liberate Venezuela or Cuba or Iran or whatever. My guy, you're missing something out. It's America first to liberate Cuba and Iran and Venezuela. All right, this is the American first stance.
That's the part right there you guys not seeing.
Destroying retards, we're saving people. The world, the actual world that used to suffer from oppression actually loves us. And all the libcucks have to watch from the shadows while they're gay and pathetic and taking it from behind. Just in, China orders its largest oil refiners to suspend diesel and gas exports.
I wonder
why. Wow, terrible day for China. Wow, it's almost like this is working exactly as planned. And of course, Donald Trump says, Trump says oil is beginning to flow from Venezuela. That's
Let's
it.
go.
That is exactly where we're at. A lot of people don't understand it because, in my opinion, they're retarded or delusional. All right, and I think the left is playing this up as like, why are we going to all these wars? These wars are completely useless. They mean nothing. They're lying to you to
They
manipulate
don't understand.
you.
Either they lying or they don't
putting
understand
America
themselves.
last in order to push their policy of Trump bad, because that's the whole Democratic Party right now. They're defunding the Department of Homeland Security for some reason, even though there's threats of Iranian sleeper cells in our country. All right, like, you don't understand the level of evil we're playing with. The Democrats that are crying constantly about this stuff quite literally hate our country. Now, care, fuck you, moving on. All right, let's see what's going on in Cuba.
Make a public commitment today to rule out U.S. regime change in Cuba.
Regime change?
Yes.
Oh, no, I think we would love to see the regime
We would love
change.
to see that.
We would like to. That doesn't mean that we're going to make a change, but we would love to see a change.
So, as a U.S. blockade puts the brakes on communist Cuba's plans to continue exploiting its own people, the writing is on the wall. Because without fuel and electricity, the despots running this island prison are calculating their chances of survival, not in years or months, but in just days and weeks, as their regime grinds to a halt, while they find themselves surrounded and isolated with zero chance of escape.
Oh, that's rough,
Rubbish
buddy.
on the streets, bikes to get around, power only
Yeah, it's a shithole. It's a shithole.
by torchlight.
We are not going to overthrow Cuba. We are going to liberate Cuba. Understand the difference? Because the people do.
This, the state of Cuba, desperately running out of oil supplies.
Uh-oh.
Because it's reliant on Venezuela for fuel.
You mean to tell me it's a communist country and it's relying on other people to survive because they can't actually produce anything themselves? Wow, this never happened before.
I thought
And
communism
the US
works.
blocking
What happened?
imports of oil from there threatens to grind this island to a halt.
They cut the electricity here every day, leaving us without power for 4, 5, 6 hours.
Ordinary Cubans are struggling to adapt. Vehicle owners are limited to 20 litres of petrol, purchased through an app with long wait times.
What? They gotta wait on an app to purchase gas? Oh yeah. Don't bring that communist shit over here, please. That's great. They gotta wait on the app to fucking refill their cars, bro. That is insanity. What the fuck?
Taking away Venezuelan oil mean for the country of Cuba?
A total collapse. When you're short diesel, now you're talking about transport. You're talking about diesel for the tractors and agriculture.
Look, I feel bad for the Cubans. You know, these are innocent people. You know, unfortunately, there's a communist dictator that took over, and they couldn't do anything about it because it was backed by Iran and China. Like, again, these people were victims to this horrible regime. So every single one of these humanitarian retards, it's like, I'm here to protest for Palestine, a country that started a war through unbridled acts of terrorism and lost miserably, and that's what I'm going to be talking about every single day for the next 5 years. That's literally what the left's been doing. That is literally what the left's been doing. No one cares about the Cubans that are getting massacred or jailed under this regime. No one cares about the Venezuelans. No one cared about the Iranians. It's like such an eye-opening moment showing you that it's literally all performance where, in my opinion, foreign agitators are funding these protests and riots to destroy the Western world from within. And quite literally, it worked on like half of Europe.
Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel says he's ready for talks without U.S. pressure or preconditions.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he is.
I'm pretty sure he is. You don't want the same shit to happen to him. You don't want to get Maduroed. But it's too late, buddy. You ran your country to a shithole. You treated your people like shit. Time to remove you. Regime change.
So China, Russia, all calling for resolution through dialogue.
Cuba is right now a failed nation.
Yeah.
They don't even have jet fuel to get for airplanes to take off. They're clogging up their runway. We're talking to Cuba right now. They should absolutely make a deal because it's it's really a humanitarian threat.
Oh shit.
You're running out of everything. Holy shit.
So this right here tells you everything you need to know about those who want to see Cuba's regime survive. And what nobody's talking about is this regime right here. It continues to be a threat to its own people as well as the rest of the world because it's a puppet state for America's...
It is. It just exists to prop up little outposts for Russia and China in our hemisphere. And it's our hemisphere. I don't know if you got the memo.
Enemies like Russia, who for years have used this tiny little island off the coast of Florida as a base to threaten our entire hemisphere. Something the Soviets can only do if they prop up the criminals running.
Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? Well, we don't need to play that game ever again.
This island by import.
I completely forgot about that shit, bro. I completely forgot about that. So Cuba and Russia plotted against us before? Oh, nah. What? Cuba better get their shit together. We definitely gotta go there.
Hoarding fuel and supplies and everything else, which is nearly impossible as the Trump administration continues capturing these dark fleet tankers while simultaneously offering.
But the UN said that Trump is not allowed to capture them. And what did the UN do about it?
Nothing.
Venezuelan and U.S. oil in exchange for regime change. And
but international law states you're not allowed to just put embargoes on countries whenever you want. Oh, yes?
We are international law.
Really? Well, I think you should call the International Law Police.
Oh yeah, that's us.
I think you should call the International Law Police. And maybe they'll maybe they'll put Trump in jail for committing violations of international law, perhaps. Maybe you should call them. Where was international law when Hamas started raping and capturing random civilians? Where was international law when the Iranian regime massacred 35,000 of their own people? Where was international law when Congo and Rwanda were massacring each other in droves? Where was international law when the Nigerians, Muslims, were massacring the Christians? Where was international law when ISIS in Syria got reinvigorated and massacred Druze, Alawites, and the Kurds? The answer is simple. International law exists so that retards like the UN could basically manipulate the United States. That's essentially what international law became. International law became a place where weak retards that want world domination of their own right are able to try and make appeals to our judgment to cuck us from doing shit that benefits us. That's essentially what international law became. It's like, we don't care about international law that Hamas attacked Israel, but Israel fighting back against Hamas, that's a violation of international law. Right? We don't care about Iran killing our soldiers and our Marines in Lebanon and in Beirut and shit like that. They don't care about that. But international law, all of a sudden, there's a lot of things to say about Trump declaring an illegal war on a terrorist regime that's trying to kill us. That's just how it works. You have to understand. International law hates the West. International law is a weapon wielded by retards and barbarians to control us. It's the same way. We have foreigners coming into our countries, mostly in Europe, thank God not in America so much, but retards coming into our countries and then screaming and crying, oh, Islamophobia. Dog, no one gives a shit, all right?
Nobody gives a shit.
We've heard your spiel. We don't care.
All of Cuba, which is literally days away, is going to be absolute nightmare news for Russia because with Venezuela gone and Iran out of the picture, this was the last place that gave them a foothold in our hemisphere. And it's the last piece of the sanctions evading machine.
You mean to tell me Trump actually had a plan?
Regimes all helped establish. But the good news is that with peace coming to South America in a way the world never envisioned, the gears of freedom and capitalism are in a position to once again bring people out of poverty the second the regime in
capitalism
Cuba
let's go.
Which is all but assured now that their nearby lifelines, like a formerly communist Venezuela, are gone. Which brings us to the real reason this island dictatorship is steps away from collapse. It is impossible for a foreign adversary like Russia on the other side of the globe to supply this place with everything it needs and prop it up from that far away. It's just not going to happen.
I mean, it's not like Russia's doing super well right now either. I mean, they're in this endless war with Ukraine that just really seems to be going nowhere for them.
Cuba was staying afloat because of imports from Mexico and Venezuela. And since those are no longer coming in, the regime here is doomed. And once it collapses and its people are freed, not only will prosperity march through the streets of Havana for the first time in decades, but the anti-Western access of cartel-friendly criminal countries teaming up to evade U.S. sanctions and spread mayhem while being backed by China and Russia is gonna disappear. But now the question is, how bad are things in Cuba right now, and can their government avert what many say is an impending implosion?
Playing dominoes by torchlight. This is how one Cuban family passes the time during a blackout.
God
Power
damn.
cuts like this are happening more
and these blackouts have been happening a lot lately. I wonder if there's any outside foreign involvement to make sure that life becomes really annoying for the retards in Cuba. Probably a coincidence.
more frequently due to the country's fuel shortage.
They cut the electricity here every day, leaving us without power for 4, 5, 6 hours.
That's crazy.
Since Donald Trump removed Venezuela's leftist leader, Nicolas Maduro, in January.
Leftist leader. Communist dictator. These people are insufferable.
Leftist leader is perfect. I love it.
The left manipulates words is evil. It's actually evil.
The U.S. has prevented Caracas from supplying oil to Cuba.
I love it. Let him be a leftist leader. That shows
so it's almost
who
like
the leaders
Trump
is in the left.
Decided
is on the left.
He planned
fucking terrorists.
his exact trajectory. Okay, he's like, all right, we start out with Venezuela. It cucks Iran. It cucks Cuba. Then we move to Iran. It cucks China. It cucks Cuba. Then we move to Cuba. All right, now there's no footholds into the Western world. China and Russia.
It's almost as if it was all
Russia currently at war. Has
part
no
of the
help
plan.
coming. China, poor, broke, they don't have oil, they're out of energy, and all of their defense technology was proven to be retarded, lame, and useless in Iran. Like, bro, this is unbelievable stuff.
It does.
This is incredibly tragic that average people who don't run the communist...
It sucks for the average people, though. It does. At some point, they're going to be really tired. At some point, the protests are going to start.
Cuban government have to go through this, but everything we're seeing on the screen here, it is not the fault of the United States whatsoever. No, instead it is the fault of an economic system that does not allow the common man to pull himself up out of
communism, bro.
It's communism.
Communism sucks. It never worked, and it never will. It's a broken system inherently. It inherently makes no sense. Tired of making believe that there are any redeeming features to communism. There aren't. It's all bad. It's not like a system that hasn't been done properly yet. It hasn't been done properly because everyone dies before it happens properly. All right? Unbelievable stuff.
101, that is to blame for everything we're seeing here. And this is the communist playbook. What the regime here is doing is it is holding out its people as...
Like, I don't know why. We need to really start humiliating communists more. Dude, communism killed more people than Nazism. All right? It's not even remotely close.
That's crazy.
It's not even remotely close. Like, it's insane. But for some reason, it gets a pass, and it's cool, and it's awesome, and colleges talk about how communist futures and utopias are good. It's a nightmare. It doesn't make sense.
Hostages.
Oh, and also it violates the commandment of thou shalt not steal. It essentially means that none of the things you actually make you own.
Yeah.
All right? The state owns everything, which goes against biblical values of private property. Private property is established in, like, within the first 10 chapters of Genesis. All right, Abraham buys land from Ephron. All right, like, it's literally one of the first major stories in Genesis. Is the purchasing and private ownership of land. All right, it is an anti-God stance. Right, that's why I love seeing communists being like, if Jesus was alive today, he'd be a communist. No, he wouldn't. He would flip a table over, and he would call y'all a brood of vipers or some shit, okay?
For the entire world, subjecting them to a humanitarian crisis so that they can maintain their power. Is this a human rights nightmare? Absolutely, but it's been going on for decades. This is not a new phenomenon in Cuba whatsoever. And Cuba hasn't ground to a halt recently because of Donald Trump. No, that happened decades ago when it stopped being free, and that's why the cars are so old. This whole place shows the signs of being stuck in the past with absolutely no future the longer this regime stays in power.
They've literally just been propping it up with outside help, but it itself is not a self-sustaining system because it's communist, which ultimately cannot work. It can't work.
And to understand how these regimes use their own people as a bargaining chip, so to speak, the second oil and fuel flow back into this country, things are going to power up again. Life's going to get a little bit better for people who still have no freedom and are
if oil comes back to this country,
ultimately still oppressed, and the regime is going to stay in power. At least that's how things have worked for a long time, but as you're about to see, that could soon change.
With fuel dwindling in Cuba, the United Nations says the country is facing a potential humanitarian collapse. And today, Cuban leader Miguel Diaz-Canel says he's ready to speak with President Trump.
Cuba
is willing to engage in dialogue with the United States on any topic, but without pressure or preconditions, and always respecting Cuba's sovereignty and independence. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt was asked about the Cuban leader's remarks.
The fact that the Cuban government is on its last leg and its country is about to collapse, they should be wise in their statements directed towards the President of the United States. But as I just reiterated, the President is always willing to engage in diplomacy, and I believe that's something that is taking place, in fact, with the Cuban government.
So the interesting thing about the Cuban government is they say they want to have talks with the United States without any conditions or impacts on their sovereignty. They are sovereign, they are independent, but as an island communist prison nation, they have been wholly dependent on external support the entire time this regime has been in power. You see, they can't support themselves. They're collapsing. Venezuela, the same thing happened. Venezuela collapsed under the same type of government, couldn't pump its own oil out of the ground, which it's got more of than any other country on earth, and enrich itself and its own people at the exact same time. Cuba's got the exact same problem. They need external help, which is why the Soviets and now the Russians have just been so happy.
And they've been, the craziest thing is, they have quite literally been filling in for these retards. That's what they've been doing. Right? Essentially, that's what they've been doing. It's a crippled country that can't stand on its own 2 feet. So the worst fucking people on the planet take advantage of it in order to basically give them the most basic of human needs to survive in order to just be their lifeline. And in return, they use Cuba as their little outpost in our hemisphere. Our hemisphere. It's ours. We own it. It's ours. And if you don't like that, you could take it from. You could try to take it.
Help them out, and why Venezuela was helping them out. You see, you had a whole regime support apparatus going on here, which kept places like Cuba and Venezuela and Iran alive. And the idea that the Cuban government is going to come to some talk with leverage, what leverage do they have over the United States? Their oil was coming from Venezuela. A lot of their imports were coming from Mexico. Mexico has cut them off. And the Venezuelan oil imports, well, those might come back, but look at this, if they do come back, who's going to be controlling them? Oh, look at that. The United States is going to be controlling those oil imports. And when Venezuela is where you get your oil, you get Venezuelan corruption and Russian influence with that oil and that gasoline. But when the U.S. has to do it, that's not going to come with the power anymore, is it? No, this oil, you better believe this is going to come with conditions for a peaceful transfer of power, which is something nobody ever thought was ever going to be on the table.
Administration threatened to impose additional.
Look, man, we might even be able to get an El Presidente without even military. All right,
that'll be
people
fire.
might actually just be so tired.
That would
of
be
this
fire.
shit. They might just figure this out themselves. Right? They have no outside help coming.
Yep. Nobody can save them.
It's an entire economy used and propped up by foreign countries and powers because they can't survive themselves under communism. So, at some point, it's just going to be too much. Maybe they'll give us their El Presidente as a gift. Maybe we won't even have to go in. That'd be crazy.
Tariffs on any country that supplies oil to Cuba. President Trump.
That's right. And a lot of people said, no, Donald Trump, why would you do this? Because that's life. All right, Cuba is an adversary. They're in our hemisphere. We want to starve out the rats. So therefore, we are going to use our manipulation abilities to fucking tariff the shit out of you on the way. And you want to hear my nuclear take? That's based as fuck. I see a lot of retards clowning the tariffs. Nah, dude, no one's doing business with Cuba. Because if they do business with Cuba, they get tariffed to deal with us. No one wants that. America's the best country in the world. It's also, for the record, the biggest consumer economy in the world. No country would jeopardize doing business with the United States for fucking Cuba. That's right, we know our worth. So therefore, we have the ability to say things and force people to listen.
Addressing the crisis there earlier
Energy
this
diplomacy.
week.
It's a failed nation now, and they're not getting any money from Venezuela.
Today, Congressman Carlos Jimenez urging airline CEOs to end flights to Cuba.
This regime is totally isolated. If there's no flights, because when the planes fly in, they can't get off the runway because there's no fuel.
Yeah, if there's no fuel, people aren't going to be happy.
Yeah,
Dude,
no
this
planes
just dropped right now.
coming
This
in.
is insane. I can't believe they just posted this now.
What's your message to Americans who think that bombing of Iran was in some way sort of intended to distract Americans from the Epstein files?
Well, listen, I think we're seeing this pattern, right? Trump has impulsively went in on Venezuela. He impulsively went in on Iran. There was no
strategy.
We need to get rid of this bitch. Why is she in
geopolitical collapse
Congress?
of every single one of our
Oh my
adversaries.
God.
No plan. It's just happened. It's just all working out for Trump, I guess. I guess God, not only did he help Trump dodge a bullet, but he's also making all of Trump's complete impulsive decisions end up working out on a global scale. Wow, God's really looking out for us, I guess.
no exit and no end game for either of these situations. It led to
Really? 'Cause it seems like Venezuela is literally playing ball with us every step of the way right now.
And we already
global
exited.
instability.
We're not in
Global
Venezuela right
instability.
now.
What the fuck does that mean? Those are complete nothing burger words. What does that mean, global instability? What's less stable now
Nothing
that we
burger.
took out terrorists and dictators? Explain it.
Fuck our word
Like,
salad.
oh, they just say there's a violation of sovereignty and global instability.
Everywhere he goes, and every time he's done that, it has been consistent with a spike or a revelation in what is happening with the Epstein files.
My God, these people are retarded. And also,
Literally,
AOC,
bro.
oh my God, this is a perfect opportunity.
Retardation.
Yeah, it's so over. AOC just today voted no on the release of sexual conduct of people in Congress. What skeletons are in her closet? And she releases this massive tweet explaining how it's actually a bad thing to do this, and she voted against it. Quite literally, fuck yourself. All right, no one's buying this shtick. You're just using
What a
all of
piece
these
of shit.
things as some sort of campaign against Trump. That's literally it.
What a
These
piece of
people
shit,
hate
bro.
America.
I don't think that coincidence is something to dismiss off the cuff. I think that he
By the way, there is nothing in the Epstein files that implicates Trump so far. I'm just saying.
feels
Nothing.
existentially tied to it. And I actually think that it is one reason that he must be removed from office. Because if this has that, if the
Good
Epstein
thing
files has
Americans
such
don't
a
care what
hold
you think,
on
lady.
President Trump and this administration.
She is literally inventing a headcanon right now. Like, every single step of the way. It's like, we need to remove Trump from office because Trump went to war, and it's not even the war that's bad, but the war happened while the Epstein files aren't out, and that means that he cares about the Epstein files, and just because he cares about the Epstein files means we have to remove him from office. Says the girl who voted no to releasing the sexual misconduct information from people in Congress. Again, they're all performative retards, every single one of them.
To get them off the runway, the writing is on the wall. This is not going to last for very long. And critics of this are going to say, well, the Trump administration is just bullying poor Cuba. Cuba's a great place. They've got free health.
Let me make this clear. Yes. Yes, we are bullying Cuba. And it's our God-given right to, as the superpower in the world, to bully people that are terrorists and hate us. Yep, I'm sorry, I don't want to be that guy, but yes, that is what's happening. I see a lot of people trying to play word, like, I see a lot of people being like, the Iran war is not really a war, it's an operation. No, it's a war. Of course it's a war. These people are trying to kill us. We went to war. We're obliterating them. War is not a dirty word. All right, it's why war is done. All right, sometimes war is necessary. For example, wiping out a terrorist regime that's massacring their own people and trying to kill us. Pretty necessary reason to go to war. See, I see a lot of people trying to do that leftist talking point, to try to manipulate language and to frame things differently than they are. Yes, we're bullying Cuba. Absolutely. It's still based. Cuba deserves it. We have to get rid of this fucking chokehold in our hemisphere that Russia has. We don't need to live like that. We could just do things.
Healthcare, they've got better hospitals than we have in America. We hear this stuff.
They don't. The free healthcare is a sham. Communism doesn't work. Free healthcare is a joke. People die of free healthcare all the time. There was a 97-year-old woman in England who broke her hip and was on the floor, and it took them 3 days for the ambulance to arrive for this woman who broke her hip, and she died. She died on the floor of her apartment because of socialized healthcare.
All the time, but the reality is Cuba oppresses its people. And it was doing it with the help of countries like Venezuela and Mexico.
I love how he was explaining why this isn't bullying. Yeah, of course we're bullying them. We're bullying them because they're retarded, and we hate them. The communists. I mean, not the people, obviously.
Propping up these dictators. And according to Amnesty International, Cuba flunks the human rights checklist here. Freedom of expression is severely limited. Authorities label activists and journalists as common criminals, mercenaries, and foreign agents.
Good stuff.
That's what you are if you're a journalist in Cuba. And you know what happens to foreign agents in Cuba? Yeah, they get locked up, and they don't have due process over there. They have a process, but it ain't due. Arbitrary arrests and detentions. They've subjected artists, intellectuals, and other critical voices to arbitrary detention, including in their homes with serious...
So yes, we are bullying them.
...implications for their privacy and right to freedom of movement. That's not a free society. This is a society that is collapsing.
Yeah, of course.
And the only reason it can't rise up is because it's an island, which is hard to escape from. It's hard for people there to get external support.
And even though it's hard to escape from, still, I think 18% of the people manage to escape. And guess where they go? They flood into our country. That's why we have all these Cuban illegal aliens. Like, bro, we have every reason to want to stabilize this country for our own benefit. It is quite literally the America First perspective to eliminate some dictators that destabilize our world, especially our hemisphere.
Of any kind, and people are in trouble economically. They don't have the ability to do anything other than try to get food for tomorrow. And they're already living in a crushed economy that's stuck 50 years in the past. This place ground to a halt years ago, and now it is on its last legs.
To Dr. Orlando Gutierrez-Boronat with the Assembly of the Cuban Resistance.
The oil embargo placed on the U.S., on the Castro regime, is the only way to force that regime to restore rights and freedoms to the Cuban people and to cease repression.
While Dr. Gutierrez-Boronat says a conversation between the two nations may not immediately lead to change in Cuba, he believes a breakthrough is coming.
I think what can work is using international pressure, using economic pressure, using support for the Cuban people to try and drive a wedge between factions within that regime.
Sounds like it's a very smart way to bully this regime. Wow.
To bring about real change. And I think it's the closest we've ever been.
So, good. Interesting statement here. He says that without this oil, the Cuban regime cannot survive. And that means because they've had oil and because they've had external support, because they cannot support themselves, they have been allowed to survive for decades. Think about that. The world has stood idly by while this regime propped itself up, harmed its people, impoverished them, stole their future, and now there's talk that, oh, Trump is somehow not doing the right thing by going in here and effecting regime change. This is a good thing for the people of Cuba. They shouldn't be living in a place where they don't have any human rights.
Yeah, it is a good thing for the people of Cuba. This is the thing that no one actually wants to talk about, and it's so sad. Like, no one wants to actually address this for what it actually is. But I'll explain to you exactly what it actually is.
We are liberating
Trump
these
is doing
people,
objectively good things around the world. Yes. Yes, it's good for America. It is America first to want these dictators to be collapsed, all right? To want to cripple our enemies, to want, etc., as I've explained and established very, very well and thoroughly throughout this video, that for some reason people like Senator Warren and AOC can't possibly wrap their head around. Women. No, I'm kidding. That's ridiculous. What am I talking about? But the reality is he's doing objective good for the people in these countries too. That's why we see all these Venezuelans celebrating in the streets after we captured Maduro. That's why we saw Iranians celebrating in the streets throughout the world after Trump eliminated the Ayatollah. And we're gonna see Cubans celebrating after we inevitably capture another presidente. Whether he comes willingly, whether he's ousted by his own people, or whether we have to do a little oopsie poopsie. We might have to discombobulate him, as they say. Right, the last thing you see in your head after getting discombobulated is this little silhouette of Donald Trump staring into your soul. But yes, the reason why I am so for all of this shit is because not only is it objectively good for us if this happens, but it's objectively good for the people that are suffering under these dictatorships that this happens. It is just objectively good for all parties, except for the really fucking bad guys. And quite literally, I don't really mind if it's really bad for the bad guys.
Right, and where they can never have a future because their government has chosen despotic communism.
Researcher at the University of Texas.
Chosen, in air quotes. It was chosen for
Cuba's economic collapse.
Once, a very, very long time ago. Now they can't get out of it.
Venezuelan oil mean for the country of Cuba?
A total collapse. When you are short diesel,
total collapse,
about transport.
Man,
you're talking about diesel for the tractors and agriculture. Now this really impacts the economy of the country.
Yep, sure does. And here's the other problem. There's no way for any other country to supply Cuba with the amount of oil that it needs in a cost-effective manner. Venezuela's right there. For years, these two dictatorships were just a match made in hell together, supporting each other. Venezuela was shipping its oil over to Cuba. Cuba was sending security forces over to Venezuela to help run that Maduro regime and oppress the Venezuelan people. So this was their tit for tat that kept these guys afloat. And since the oil was coming from so close, it was very cheap, it was very plentiful. But if you're going to try to truck that around the globe from a place like Iran with the help of Russian oil tankers, it's just not going to happen. And those tankers, when they come over, they're getting chased away, they're getting seized. That oil's getting redirected to the U.S. Strategic Reserve. This is not a plan that can keep this place afloat. The only way it can survive is with the Venezuelan oil that it used to have, which is now controlled by the U.S.
Crisis. The Cuban government is implementing a 4-day work week and restricting fuel sales. Ordinary Cubans are struggling to adapt. Vehicle owners are limited to 20 liters of petrol, purchased through an app with long wait times. Alexander Diaz is a taxi driver, but without fuel for his car, he's had to find work elsewhere.
I had to park the motorcycle, park the car, take a bicycle, and work in construction. It had been a long time since I worked in construction.
Damn, bro.
Street vendor
Now, there's going to be people that see this and say that this is all Trump's fault. But you got to ask yourself something. Why is it that this government can't support itself? Why is it 100% reliant on external forces to keep itself going? Why does it have no economy? Is that the fault of a president that just came into office 2 years ago? Or is that the fault of an economic system called communism that has brought...
Absolutely. And this is the thing. Hassan Piker's been talking about, oh, no, it's actually America that's the problem because America put sanctions on these communist retards. No, communism just doesn't work.
Poverty to every single country that has tried it. There has never been a communist country where the people of that country and the government experienced bountiful plenty that overflowed and allowed them to feed themselves and the rest of the world. That's not ever happened in world history.
It's because it doesn't work. It's because communism doesn't work. It's a system that's impossible.
And we're seeing it right here on the streets. These people are suffering. They're not suffering because of somebody that's been president for a year and a half. Instead, they're suffering because they don't have rights, they can't produce anything, they have no economy, they cannot do things to benefit their own lives whatsoever, and if they speak out against that, they go to prison.
Is that he might face supply issues soon.
Food will become scarce if the trucks that transport supplies stop coming. The town is really going to be in need.
This latest fuel shortage is aggravating an already difficult situation in the communist country. Cuba has faced a U.S. trade embargo since 1962 and has for years dealt with power cuts and shortages of fuel, medicine, and food.
So they've had shortages for decades. And it's not like...
No, it's Trump's fault, actually. No, it's because Trump is putting sanctions. That's why. It's because Trump sanctioned them. That's why it's failing. It's not because it's communism. And communism always fails. Obviously.
Nobody was allowed to do anything with Cuba. Mexico was trading with Cuba, Venezuela, a whole bunch of countries, Russia, China, you name it. It's just the U.S. wasn't doing anything with Cuba. It's not that the United States had some responsibility to keep Cuba afloat. No, if Cuba's a sovereign nation, as their leader says, if they want to come to the negotiating table without any preconceived conditions...
Act like a sovereign nation. All right, if you want to be a sovereign nation, act like it. Don't be reliant on other nations. If you're reliant on other nations, you're not sovereign. If you're not sovereign, then you don't have sovereignty. If you don't have sovereignty, well... We're gonna take your El Presidente. I'm sorry. That was a joke. Obviously, we would take your El Presidente even if you did have sovereignty. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Even if you did have
like your El
sovereignty.
Presidente, he's gonna have to go. You can just do things actually.
Want to be respected and not be dependent on anybody, well, that's impossible because they're totally dependent. They always have been. And the sad thing is that the only thing worth exporting that this communist government could come up with was to send its own corruption to Venezuela in exchange for fuel and gasoline so that the place wouldn't just be a rock floating in the ocean, so that there would actually be an economy and some sort of infrastructure there, none of which is sufficient at all to benefit the lives of these people who have been struggling.
Immigrated to the U.S. in the 1950s.
God, I fucking hate communism. And, you know, so does God. Thou shalt not steal, bro. Communism is a system where you have a couple of guys that are just taking shit from people that earn it. All right, that's how communism works. All right, I work hard for my money, then they take the shit that I make, and then they redistribute it to themselves in their own pockets. And pennies go to me and everybody else. All right, it's thou shalt not steal versus communism.
Settling
they all on the wrong side of the scripture, bro. It's crazy.
Yeah, why are there hundreds of thousands of Cubans in Miami? How did that happen? I don't actually know the numbers. Hold on, let me look up the numbers.
There's a lot of fucking Cubans in Miami.
How many Cubans are in Miami? Many Cubans. All right, let's go. Grok, let's see what we got. God damn. Oh, my God. There's 940,000 Cubans in Miami, Florida alone. Oh, my God.
Why you think?
2.4 million in Florida
they
total.
Fled that
obviously they're
communist
fleeing
shit,
this shithole. Like, here's the thing.
Shit
I don't blame them for wanting to leave. I just want to figure this shit out. Like, we have an immigration issue here. Big time immigration issue. It's insane. Oh, my God.
Anti-communist. The fate of Cuba is deeply personal to Rubio, who rejects the idea that the U.S. embargo was the cause of the island's economic
obviously
malaise.
Not.
We would love to see.
Again, I'm not criticizing particularly Cuba, the people. I don't have any ill will against the Cuban people. I think they're so much better than like the third worlders that are pouring in from like retard land. You know, quite literally, infinitely better. But still, we need a country that operates properly. We don't want our neighbors to be so fucking unstable because they're communist shitholes that their people need to flee and jump over our borders. We don't want that either.
In the rural areas of Cuba are acute and they're deep, and it's not because of the embargo. It's because they don't know how to run an economy.
Right. It's because they're communists.
Don't know how to
run
run
nothing to do with embargoes.
Rubio's hand guiding a lot of these actions.
We have a very
dude. Rubio's been so based.
Rubio been working hard,
and while Rubio may have a very coherent perspective on Cuba, we don't know how that unfolds. I think that the regime in its current form, without any outside aid,
right. They need outside aid, and look who they're getting it from. They're not getting it from countries that have become allies of the United States.
Oh no, they're not. They're getting their outside aid from retards that we are conquering. They are getting their foreign aid from El Presidentes that we are already incorporating into our giant carbonite collection of El Presidentes.
States all. No, and the other thing that's very interesting about this is you have Cuba and you have Florida, which is very close, where you have a massive Cuban population, and the people in Florida who are Cuban Americans are thriving.
Yeah, they're super successful. They're great people.
I know a
Cubans
couple
are
of
fucking
Cubans
awesome.
that's doing well.
Right, the people, obviously.
Even from New York. They moved from New York to
Florida.
Florida.
They're doing super well. Of course they are. They're good people.
Once they retire.
Literally suffer. Like, think about how insane it is. You have the same ethnic group. You have the same families, essentially.
Cubans
70
work hard,
miles
man.
apart from each other.
And
That's
they
the distance
good
between
business
Miami and
owners.
Cuba.
All that. Yo, I fuck
70
with
miles
Cubans.
apart
Cubans
from each
is
other.
good people.
The ones in America, in a capitalist society, thriving, great people, super good. They pay taxes. It helps the country. The country is better because of our Cuban immigrants.
For real. I agree with that.
Cuba, 70 miles away, under communism, total shithole, absolute disaster. The people can barely survive. Explain to me how that happens. All right, explain it. All right, it's not a different people. It's not a different work ethic. It's not a different culture. It's the same fucking culture. It's the same people. It's the same ethnicity. Same community. It's the same families. But 70 miles away, and they're widely successful. 70 miles south, and they're literally riding horses because they can't afford fuel for their old cars.
The people in Cuba are not thriving. You've got the same people. One is succeeding wildly. The other's living in abject poverty. What does that tell you? It has nothing to do with the United States embargo. It's not the U.S.'s job to keep Cuba afloat. Cuba's been doing what it can to keep itself afloat, teaming up with America's enemies to do that while its people stay oppressed. It's the system.
We owe you nothing, all right? But Trump, nuts. What
He
if
chose
Trump
the
is
wrong
gonna
side.
actually be rude to people? Yeah, he's allowed. He's allowed to be rude to people, actually. Yeah, it's not our job to make sure that Cuba thrives. Nope, not our duty.
This country that has run it into the ground. It's on its last legs. It's been there for a long time. And the good news is, with Venezuela's dictatorship out of the picture, perhaps freedom could come to Havana too in the near future. Wouldn't that?
It is happening. It's happening. Donald Trump.
It's going to happen.
Donald Trump. Your April El Presidente is waiting. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This is me talking about how communism is actually gay and retarded. But more importantly, it's talking about how Donald Trump's geopolitical chess has been unbelievably good. AOC freaking out, Warren freaking out, everyone, oh, Trump has no idea what he's doing. Yeah, he has no idea what he's doing. It's just all of our enemies happen to be committing collective suicide because of it. We are witnessing a masterclass in foreign policy, and a lot of people like to, you know, fall into these little rabbit holes where they think everything is a terrible decision and bad. But quite literally, that's because they're retarded. Don't let the retards control your mind. That's what they want. They want to control your mind. Don't let them. Use your brain, do your research, come to your own conclusions, but the retards like to convince you of all sorts of things. But they're all retarded. Remember, the media is owned by the retards. The algorithms are pushing the retards. Don't let the retards mold you. You must mold the retards. Anyway, Netanyahu, if you're listening to this video, I have reason to believe that the next Ayatollah is actually the leader of Cuba. I have reason to believe that he is days away, if not minutes away, from developing a nuclear weapon, Netanyahu. Let's figure this shit out immediately. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Pete Hegseth and CENTCOM Commander Admiral